r/ask Reddit. I grew up in a polygamous cult in Utah. I escaped at age 17 to avoid an arranged marriage to my first cousin. IAmA. Have they tried to reach out and get you back into the cult? And were they accepting of your wish to leave, or did they try to stop you? They tried to get me back into the cult for the first 2 years after I left. They finally gave up after I tried to help the authorities arrest my dad. Was there one person in particular that was the voice of reason and persuaded you to get out? If you can talk about them without worrying about outing them, of course. When I was about 16, I started sneaking out to go to a martial arts class. My sensei would listen to my crazy ideas and then debate with me about them. He would research my questions and help me see things from an outside perspective. The more I questioned my belief system, the more I realized the religion was abusive and wrong. You broke out of a cult with the help and encouragement of your secret sensei? This needs to be a movie immediately. Forgive me if this has been asked already, but could someone report the sexual abuse of children and the cult to the Dept of Social Services? Wouldn't they have to investigate? The problem with reporting is the statute of limitations. I was sexually abused at 14. And I didn't know I could even report it until I was 18. By that time, it had been 4 years and the statute of limitations had expired. I've reported abuse for my siblings, but they are so afraid of the outside world that they won't cooperate with an investigation. Higher heads up. But I don't think this is true in a criminal suit that could be started by the state against these people. Not a Utah lawyer. So seek actual legal advice. As far as I can tell, there is no limitation on prosecutions for sexual abuse of children or rape of children. See Part 3 Utah Gov link. Now it would be the government, not you, bringing this suit. And they might decide not to for whatever reason. But the state could prosecute the people who abused you. Do you believe that your father actually believes what the religion preaches, especially in regards to polygamy? Or does he just use it as manipulation for personal gain desire? I think he believes in polygamy and the LDS doctrine. But I think he's taken it and practices it in a way that just hurts people. When was the first time you realized, wait a minute, something is off here? When I was gang raped at 6 years old. This is the most show-stopping, gut-wrenching response I've ever read. How did anyone make enough money to support that many children? Wives. In my group, the men don't financially support the wives. They own the house for the family and the woman is expected to pay rent to the man. Most of the women are on government assistance or they don't eat. How do they get government assistance? As single mothers? Have you heard of Under the Banner of Heaven by John Krakauer? And if so, how accurate is its portrayal of Rulon and Warren? Yes, I have read Under the Banner of Heaven. I really enjoyed the book and found it very accurate. I've recommended it to many people who have been curious about my background. What was the biggest WTF? That's not true realization you had regarding the FLDS teachings after leaving? My family is very racist and we were taught that African American people had an extra bone in their body because they were descended from a monkey. I felt so stupid when I voiced that belief, lol. I know I'm going to regret asking. But what was the extra bone? How exactly did you escape? What was the plan and how did you follow through with it? Housing, money, running away, food, etc. One night, when I was 17, I packed my photo album, journals, and some clothes in the back of my car and I disappeared. I was homeless for a month before I found a friend who allowed me to stay with him. When I contacted my family, they brainwashed me into coming back. When I was 18, I left again. I stayed with a boyfriend's parents while I waited tables and struggled through college. You had a car/had access to a car? I'm not at all questioning your story. I'm just surprised it was so easy. Was it harder the second time? What are some businesses that are run by polygamous groups that Utahns don't realize? I was thinking about buying a precision rifle from Desert Tech until I realized that they were owned by the Kingstons. There used to be a huge list online called kingstonland.com, but it was taken down. I hope they update it again soon. I'd be willing to host a replacement if you could help me build a list. Final edit. If you'd like to keep up to date, please join us in our new subreddit. Edit. Looks like I'm going forward with it. Anyone who would like to help with graphic design, research, or the cost of the domain, please PM me. It's well past my bedtime, so while the server is ready the site won't be up until tomorrow. I'll edit again soon with a link and an update. Edit 2. Going through the many replies. I appreciate every response and offer of assistance. Will update again in a few once I've cleared my inbox. Edit 3. Many Reddit users have offered to help with this project, and I really appreciate it. One user has graciously offered a free domain, and several others have offered to help in other ways. Those participating or contributing I will mention if they give me express permission. Speaking of being extra guarded, I'm privatizing and protecting myself through an LLC. It's a process that will require me to open a PO box and thus file a form in person tomorrow. So hopefully, Reddit, you can forgive me for not directly and publicly connecting my personal information to this site we're building. I don't really want to be targeted just yet. So the LLC will be filed tomorrow morning, enabling me to receive donations towards the costs we'll have and register the domain. Either way, I'll actually have a URL tomorrow, and hopefully a temporary site while we work out the remaining details. Finally, anyone who would like to keep up with this project or help out, PM me for the Discord invite. I'll be updating again here soon with a link to a dedicated thread where I'll provide more information on where we're at. How are you related to the girls who do Escaping Polygamy? They are all Kingstons as well. They are all my first cousins. Chanel and I are actually still very close. Is that show fairly accurate? I've always wondered if it was all scripted or not. What part of mainstream life do you think we who have never been in a cult wouldn't realize how close it is to cult-like behavior? Lol, I'm still trying to figure out mainstream life, haha. I would probably have to say consumerism. We really don't need 98% of the things we buy. How are kids disciplined? The parents have not been taught how to discipline their children, and each parent does the best they can. Most of the children are just beaten until they obey. What has been the hardest part of raising your children differently than you were raised? I really admire anyone like you who can break free and break the cycle of abuse. I wish you nothing but peace for the rest of your life. I'm also buying the Kindle book. Thanks for this AMA. Thank you so much for the support. Because I have a licensed daycare, I am required by the state to take child training classes. 20+ hours a year. These classes have been my lifeline in raising my own children. Because I didn't have a blueprint to take with me. Even if my mother and I were on good terms, I would never trust her to care for my children. I understand. I wasn't raised in a cult. But my father was abusive. I didn't trust him to be alone with my kids. What's your favorite food? Cinnamon rolls. My mom used to make them instead of cake for my birthday every year. This comment is breaking me. I send you a hug. I cannot imagine going through what you've been through and coming out with what seems to be a happy memory, or at least able to miss of something usually nice and warm such as a homemade meal, even though it probably took place in an awful situation. You're one brave and strong woman. Thanks for sharing your story. How do you feel about the raids that the FBI made on several businesses that are owned by the Kingston clan and the role that the insider, seen on Escaping Polygamy, may have had? I'm really glad that you escaped. The insider on Escaping Polygamy was actually multiple people giving them information. I was very happy with the raids on the businesses. Those raids are potentially going to put Jacob Kingston and Isaiah Kingston in prison for a long time. They definitely deserve to be there. Have you found it difficult to maintain relationships on the outside after growing up in such an environment? Have you done any kind of therapy to adjust? After I left the cult, I became very promiscuous and actually avoided relationships. When I met my husband, he encouraged me to go to therapy. I have been in therapy for about 3 years. What was the last straw for you to actually make the decision to leave? My dad sat me down on my 16th birthday and told me I had to get married. I knew I was leaving about that point even if I couldn't admit it to anyone yet. What was the extent of your contact with the outside world while in While you were in, what caused you to doubt your brainwashing? I went to a public school for kindergarten and first grade, and then my dad pulled everyone out of school to keep outside beliefs from getting in. I went to college when I was 15. But wasn't allowed to see anyone outside class. We were not allowed to make outside friends. How did you get into college? As someone that escaped, what would you say we as outsiders can do to help others who want to escape? The best thing an outsider can do is to be a person to talk to while they figure out their trauma. People from the cult don't know how to make their own decisions. Encouraging them to make their own decisions and be strong is the best way you can help them help themselves. What do you like about your life now? Read all the questions and they are mainly about your past. Tell us how you feel now. Lol, I'm pretty boring now, haha. I have PTSD and bipolar 2. Which comes from the PTSD, and I'm in therapy and on medication to deal with that. I'm hoping to be off medication in the next 2 years. I've been running a licensed home daycare for the past 5 years. And I'm 3 classes away from a bachelor's degree in business management. I have kids and a husband whom I'm pretty happy with. Yes, it's the same husband I write about in my book, lol. I love writing and I love fitness. I was in a cult for 4 years in college and I have the same things. PTSD and bipolar 2. I'm also the oldest of 11 total siblings and can't really talk to them anymore. Crazy. You have such a powerful story. As ducked as everything is. Your pain will help so many people. Just like mine. This is also just the beginning. There are great things ahead. In your experience, does the FLDS actively try to recruit new members from the outside? Or do they mainly just focus on growing from within, like trying to marry cousin to cousin? In your case? Thanks for watching and be sure to subscribe to RedditQueen for the best daily content.